You guys enjoy that little intro video, though it's not my normal introduction video that I always have at the start. But welcome to the stage! Today I'm going to take a different shot at something, and that something is a remake idea for Persona 3. Now, it has been maybe almost a year since I got into Persona. I got into it in December with Persona 5. I've watched through Persona 4 and Persona 3. But after everything, Persona 3 is my favorite overall. However, Persona 3 really needs a remake. People have been calling for it. People have been kind of hoping or thinking that Atlas is probably in the works for that because of Persona 3 dancing. I myself am saying, maybe not. Maybe it's just milking the series again because Atlas does that with Persona and not their other series that have barely less than 2 entries, or, you know, Shin Megami Tensei as a whole. But enough about that. Welcome to Persona 3 Resolution. Why Resolution? Because it was between 2 color choices for the color blue, which is the main theme of this, or, well, color scheme of this series. So it was really between Midnight Blue or Blue Resolution. And Midnight, though it is fitting, it is a little bit more fitting for Persona 4, so I went with Resolution. Plus, it kind of fits a little bit better with the whole story of Persona 3, in my honest opinion. But before I get into the meat of this thing, I just wanted to let you guys know I have opened an Etsy store. I'm currently selling buttons for both Persona and Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, so if you are interested, check the link below. Now, Persona 3 has had 2 game enhancements, or updates, whatever you want to call them. FES and Persona 3 Portable. Now, I know some people might say Persona 3 Portable is kind of a downgrade since it's more of a visual novel game instead of being able to explore the town like in the original games. But P3P does give you not only new options with party members and equipment handling, but also a new point of view with the female protagonist Minako, or Hamako, or Kotone, or whatever you want to call her. FES, even if it came before P3P, has had some other little things. Mostly going to be looking at the answer, as it's not a complete mess that can't be reworked. Actually, that's going to be a very heavy rework story for the answer because it is a mess, I'll say that much. Plus, there are other little features I think would work best with this game that were quite annoying to deal with without them. I think we all know what those are. So I'm gonna go into them since they are relatively little things that I can just get out of the way quick before I go over the story. first change is really more of a keep. It's an option to play as Minato or Minako and choose which attendant you want, Elizabeth or Theodore, for either gender this time, not just locked behind Minako. Next, be able to pick what card you want to duplicate and which skills you want to pass down. Honestly, without this, it makes using Persona so much more difficult. I had to put the game down several times due to several tries of trying to get the skill I want or more copies of a skill I wanted. And when I did, I magically get the one I want in 5 minutes, when being able to pick would take 1. Persona sacrifices. Level up your personas by other personas you don't need. Simple. It would help a lot since shuffle time will remain the same and maybe you don't want to grind a lot or have money to spare. Sacrificing other personas would be a nice touch. Oh, and add another door to the Nova room in the dorm. Actually, the best place is exactly where it was in The Answer. It's very convenient and you don't have to go all the way to the mall and come back at night. Next up, some special group events. By this, I mean you do some things with your friends. Study with Fuka, Junpei, and Yukari, go to the movies with Kenji and Ryo, play with Maiko, Ken, and Koromaru at the shrine, something like that. They will raise your charm, academic, or courage by double normal activity would, or rarely triple. This makes the beginning of the game much less hectic for those wanting to do a complete social link run. Next up, baton paths from Persona 5. I really like the idea and sometimes wish I could use it during my run in P3P. Could possibly mean gems become useless, or if you would rather save them for something else, you could take care of it if you could switch party members. I don't think they should be locked behind social link rank though. I feel like it should be available after you have access to a full team, like after or during the Emperor and Empress battle, considering that full moon battle is still a tutorial. As for some other things, controllable party members, manage everyone's equipment from the menu, a proper map you can bring up to show you the whole area so you don't get confused in Tartarus, the tired system from FBS, the different soundtrack for Minato and Minako depending who you play as, bring in some music from the movies and the dancing games, and maybe a new opening that's a mix of Burn My Dread and Soul Phrase to celebrate the new fusion of the storylines. Next, rework the social links for both of them. Minato really needs to not be forced into love roots. Look, P3P was written after Persona 4, where they understood what to do with social links and not force the romance aspect of it, but if you wanted to be a man whore, you still could. Minako's social links flowed a lot better than Minato's because you had to actually physically choose to go the love route. They, however, kept Minato's the same, which I'm like, this was their chance to redo those social links because some of them was, creepy, looking at you, Yuko. Also, the benefit is that Minako's side won't be the only one that's more entertaining because she has access to every single Seeds member's social links, which is a very important thing we're about to get into. So right now, consider this your spoiler warning for a decade-old game. Click off if you don't want to be spoiled in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's go through the social links. There will be some social links exclusive to each main protagonist. Fool will remain C's, Magician will be either Kenji or Junpei for both of them, Priestess is Fuka, Empress is Mitsuru, Emperor is Hidetoshi, Hierophant is Bukichi and Mitsuko, Lovers is Yukari, Chariot is Kazushi for Minato and Ryo for Minako, Justice is Chihiro or Ken, Hermit can be either Maya or Sayori, Fortune can be either Keisuke or Ryoji, Strength can be either Yuko or Koromaru, Hanged Man remains as Maiko, Death remains as Pharos, Tempest remains as Bebe, Devil remains as Tanaka, Tower remains as Mutatsu, Star can be either Mamoru or Akihiko, Sun remains as Akinari, Judgment remains as Nyx Annihilation Squad, Aeon remains as Aegis. Now some of you might have noticed I have left out the Moon Arcana out of that list. That's because the Moon Arcana has 2 options, Shinjiro or Nozomi. In this case, I think it might be fine if Nozomi was just removed completely. And I've asked other people and they kinda agreed with me on this point. Not many people seem to remember him as the Moon Arcana or care for him. Plus, his whole social link was, For some reason, he just gives me weird, creepy murderer vibes after that social link. Even if he did decide to be his own person after his own twin brother's death, that uneasiness hasn't gone away from me, and I don't know if other people feel this way too, but that's sort of enough for me to say, please no, get away from me. So I really suggest that Shinjiro is the Moon Arcana for both of them. And because of this choice I made, you sure as hell know there's going to be major consequences revolving October 4th. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start from the beginning of the game because this isn't a normal remake. So first of all, the major change is both Minako and Minato are here. They are twins. They are both involved in the story. But they were twins in the original story. Yeah, well, PQ basically confirmed that Minato is Minako and Minako is Minato. They are from different worlds. However, there are some worlds where they are born as twins. That's not just my theory, but a lot of other people's theories. And since they're both in 11th grade, neither one is younger or older than the other. Unless if you come down to minutes or continuity, Minato is the older sibling and Minako is the younger. As for their names, I figure in Western media, Minato is Minato Arisato and Minako is Minako Arisato. Though I do understand he gets called Makoto Yuki in the dancing game and movies, we didn't really get an official dub of the movies, and dancing games for P3 and P5 are not canon anyway. But the Q games are. So most people still call him Minato. But in Japan, I figured he'd be called Makoto Yuki, and Minako adopts the name Minato Yuki instead, since apparently the name Minato can be used as a male or female name. This gives the story a new take on thing because P3, although not a perfect story, is one of my favorites, and I'd like to see it have a combination of everything P3 related. Now, both of them remain as wildcards, and if you ask me how do you handle two wildcards in one party? Simple. Whichever you pick becomes the stronger wildcard, which means they will have more personas. The other sibling still remains a wildcard, but weaker, so they can only have one more persona that you can equip them with. Giving them an arsenal of two different personas you can give them, or at least one different one, your choice. These two will give you different points of view. Though both are fools, they both have gone on different journeys. Minato is the fool of 0 and Minako is the fool of 22. Minato at the beginning of his journey and Minako who reached her end long ago. The concept of death and morality is a heavy theme in this game. This is why Minako comes off as a depressed emo boy that we all know, who eventually learns friendship and comes out of his autopilot mode. And Minako is the one who is giving everyone motivation, while sometimes also having some doubts herself about things with reasons and caution, since she already accepted the fact of death long ago. Which is why it's much easier for Minako to make friends, and Minato, for the most part, just does what people think they will appreciate being heard from his mouth, or comes off extremely blunt. It's also why Minato is much more reckless, especially in the movies. He outright tells Yukari he doesn't care if he dies or not. And Minako is probably a lot more logical in her leadership. Though both of these things does lead to quick thinking, which might be why Mitsuru appoints either of them as leader, other than having fought shadows before. But how does death work then? Well, they both survived that accident 10 years before the game starts. Aegis then seals a part in both of them. A small hope that those two never reunite, which honestly is a brilliant idea. Instead of being trapped in one being, it's two. But unfortunately, even if those two did end up orphaned, they stuck to each other. No matter how different the personalities became, they still have a strong bond since they only have each other. And their bond of music also counts. Now, there are some parts for the movie I think should be brought into the games, but I'll get to that when I get to it. But if I don't outright say that I want something to be from the movies, then it'll be exactly like the games with a few tweaks here and there. Now, fast forward. Train station, dark hour, neither of them care due to being aware of it for years, get to the dorm, sign a contract, meet Yukari and Mitsuru, and shown dorm rooms, blah blah blah, instructions, night of April 9th. By the way, you both meet Igor together, which I guess is a little nod back to Persona 1 and 2 when everyone could enter the Velvet Room and not just the wild cards. Though back then, I think everybody was pretty much a wild card. So yeah, Dorn being attacked by a giant-ass shadow, Minato, Minako, and Yukari stuck on the rooftop. Yukari tries summoning her persona, but it's not happening because she got bitch slapped, and Evoker slides over to her twins. Now how this scene progresses is always the same. Minato will always summon his persona first, Orpheus, and then Thanatos as always. That's where you get your tutorial if you play as Minato. Then you pass out as more shadows appear. Then Minako grabs the evoker and summons her persona, Eurydice, who eventually turns into Lethe for a brief time. She then returns to normal, cue tutorial if you play as Minako, and then pass out as well. And I'm sure you're wondering who Eurydice and Lethe are, and why Minako doesn't have Orpheus. In this case, it doesn't make sense for them both to have the same persona. Even if they look different, it's really the same entity. However, Minako having Eurydice makes sense since she is the wife of Orpheus. Here is what I imagine she would probably look like, I don't know. The story goes is that Orpheus and Eurydice were once married. However, Eurydice died when she was trying to get away from Aristasis, or Aristasis, I'm not really sure, who is Orpheus's brother, I think? I don't know, many different retellings of the story, but anyway. She had accidentally tripped or stepped on a snake and had gotten bitten, and this is what ultimately killed her. Orpheus then makes it his mission to go after her in the underworld, where he tries to persuade Hades and Persephone with his lyre and music. But of course, since this is Hades we are talking about, even though he is persuaded, he's not going to let Eurydice go without a single condition, because of course it's Hades. So he tells Orpheus that he cannot look back at his wife until they had crossed over back into reality. Unfortunately, either Orpheus was too excited or didn't trust in Hades' words that he unfortunately turned around and saw his wife disappeared because he broke the condition. She will have access to wind magic off the bat, since if I remember correctly, it takes Yukari a while to learn anything decent or something to that degree. Second, Lethe. Though she is not connected to Nyx as one of her children, she is, however, connected to Hypnos. See, Lethe is not only the name of one of the rivers surrounding Hades, but also the river that flows through Hypnos' cave. This river causes forgetfulness by mere touch, as well as the goddess of forgetfulness. As for why her and not someone like Norn, who is a child of Nyx, that's because of Ryoji. Before getting to him, I will say Lethe is not seen again until The Answer. That is of importance later. So Ryoji was based off of both twins in a way, but more so off Minato. I figured Ryoji is based on what each twin lost. Minato his happiness, and Minako her feelings of sadness. However, Minako has already finished her journey by the point she got her persona, so Lethe disappears quickly. After this whole ordeal and the week passed out, they're both asked to join SEAS. Minako quickly says yes with no hesitation, which makes his sister a bit surprised. This is where Yukari to be like, are you sure? It's going to be just like that night, maybe even worse. Instead of, I was afraid you'd say no line. That line really did annoy me. But when he confirms that yes, he wants to join, Minako follows. Fast forward, Junpei joins and someone is picked as leader. If Minako will say they chose a good leader. If Minato would probably say something like, you picked an airhead but it's your choice, which in response, Minako would probably yell at him or be annoyed. On Priestess Full Moon, Junpei runs off as normal, but so will Minako. In this case, I'm not crazy to let you play by yourself, so control will switch over to Minato. If you're playing as Minako, you only have 2 personas, so choose wisely before you do this full moon. The next important event is the Emperor and Empress full moon. This is where I'd like that scene from the movie to appear. Yukari ends up annoyed at Minato for just doing as everyone says with no objections. She suggests that he should just stay behind and look after Natsuki. He agrees and heads upstairs with Minako running after him. She asked him if he's fine with that, and his response is, "I don't care either way," and leaves his room. So the team that looks for Fuka is Junpei, Akihiko, and Minako. This will be where you play as Minako for a bit if you play as Minato. And then the rest of that scene from the movie plays with Minato coming to help everyone after you have had a fake battle you couldn't win, and everyone is hurt. Fuka eventually realizes she can detect their weaknesses and tells them, "Your party for this battle will be Minato, Akihiko, and Junpei. Girls are out for this one." Now let's skip from June to late July to early August. I want both Ken and Koromaru to join at the same time, and I mean the same day. I know you get both of them in August, but a little bit earlier isn't going to hurt anyone. And this is one of the instances I want to take a point from the movie again. Ken and Koromaru know each other. They're friends. Ken takes care of Koromaru. This whole thing where Ken joins Seize because he seems to have taken revenge on his mother's murderer and wanting to end all the shadows to prevent this from happening again to anybody else is great. And the twist with Shinji saving the group from Strega's trap as they try to beat the chariot and Justice shadows before they become poisoned to death. By the way, it will be battling with a time limit because it was only used once with the Priestess Arcana, and it's an interesting concept that should be used for. Plus, I also feel Strega needs to be, a little more threatening. Speaking of Strega, there's a fourth member who doesn't fight. For now, I call her Natasha. She's the one who makes the pills they take or sell. I know Ikusuke was involved with Strega before, but I'd figured to give her the formula to make the pills for them at any time. She also experiments with the pills from time to time, wanting to make a version that will temporarily give the user more power, but so far she fears if taking it, it will end a user's life in a few minutes. She's also the one who made the poison that was supposed to kill Seize before Shinjiro saved them. Now, I do like the fact in the movie Shinji is around Seize a lot more before he officially joins in September, and the fact that Ken looks up to him and how he takes care of Koromaru. But all that changes when the Hermit Full Moon happens. Shinjiro ends up losing control of his persona and makes Ken fully remember what happened the night his mother died. That gives him the reason to become distant for the rest of September. And at this point, if you haven't noticed, I do quite like Ken's character. And a lot of people just are harsh on him just because of October 4th. Which, well, we're gonna get into now. So nobody knows where Ken is or where Shinjiro is. Minako then offers to go search for him and lets Minato take point for this mission. She leaves since Mitsuru doesn't have a problem in either of their leadership. Now, October 4th heavily relies on if you completed the Moon Arcana social link. If you play as Minako, you can save him by either the Pocket Watch or Tetrakarn. Doesn't matter if you don't have a persona with it, it's the magic of a wild card. But if you didn't do his social link, he dies like normal. The difference is, well, if you save Shinji, he's in a coma for a short while, either till just before the Kyoto trip or the beginning of December. I can't really say which one I prefer more, because you've never had him for the Kyoto trip before, but also the beginning of December is kind of more appropriate for a coma recovery. I don't know. But for this change, it's mostly due to the fact that you can play with a full team this time. This does mean Shinji probably is gonna need a new persona evolution, which, don't worry, I got you, but not gonna explain that just yet. Now, if you play as Minato, if you complete his social link, this is unfortunately where Shinjiro dies. However, if you ignore his social link, or just don't finish it in time, well, Wait, you're killing off Minako? Yes, I am. Because if you haven't noticed, she ran off. If you don't hang out with Shinji as Minato, that social link of Shinji, just pretend it's happening in the background with Minako when you're not playing as her, and you know that that social link has all of the signs of a dead man walking. And Minako probably could put the pieces together even if Shinji doesn't outright tell her that he accidentally killed Ken's mother, and the fact Ken has also been distant recently. But as to why her, well, it's kinda obvious. The original Persona 3 and FES doesn't really give you a lot of time to know Shinji. Even if you give him a social link now, he's still going to be very distant and quiet with Minato. With Minako, he's going to be much more open. And for everyone, Shinji's death is supposed to be a very drastic, life-changing event. But to me, and maybe a few other players, Shinji doesn't really have that kind of effect if you play as Minato. With Minako, yeah, you'll get that because you have the social links. But this also kinda sorta applies to Minato if you think about it. You only know him a month. You only met him during that little scene in the hospital in the back alley, and little snippets between Akihiko and Shinjiro, which really does have nothing to do with Minato, because how is he supposed to know this? You're the only one who's receiving this information, not Minato. So really, what does Minato know about Shinjiro? Not much. But if his sister was killed instead, that's a lot of motivation. But next, people would ask, won't that lose the motivation for everyone else? Not really. Akihiko still gets his due to the fact that he lost someone close to him again. Not only that, he also possibly is overcome with flashbacks to Miki's death, although this time he can see it with his own eyes. This is important because several times in their social link, if you go the romance route if I recall, Akihiko does say to Minako that she reminds him of his sister Miki. Ken still gets to realize his actions has consequences, even if it's not what he intended to happen, and stops running away from his problems. He doesn't want this to happen ever again. Fuka still gets her over Natsuki, but even more personally this time, since Minako and Fuka were very close and were in the cooking club together. Natsuki moving away just makes her more devastated until she realized that they will still be connected, even if they are alive or through memories of the dead. Shinjiro will be interesting because it's never happened before, but I assume he realizes he doesn't want to spend what time he has left away from the others. He wants to live it to the fullest and be more open to the other members, though that'll be very, very hard. Maybe he even stops taking those pills and tries to build up his strength again and control his persona. Castor eventually becomes Gilgamesh. This makes sense with the above resolution and fits with the Epic of Gilgamesh. To make it short, Gilgamesh was a young king of Uruk who was energetic. The townspeople weren't happy with how he acted and asked the gods for help. Then came a man named Enkidu who challenged Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh wins, but the two became best friends and go on an adventure together. Eventually they ended up angering the gods and as punishment killed Enkidu. Gilgamesh mourns the loss of his friend and goes to search for immortality. However, he ends up accepting his morality instead when he is told that he is mortal and that can't change. And because of that, he lived to be 104. Remember that you are mortal, remember that you will die, remember your death, memento mori. Will this also work when in Minako's route he's saved from dying? Yes, because that would be his wake-up call that people genuinely care for him and want to be with him. Much like the wake-up call Mitsuru got from Yukari during the Kyoto trip. I am a little surprised that Gilgamesh hasn't been used that much. His only appearance was in the Demi-Kid series and hasn't appeared in either Shin Megami Tensei or Persona, so that would be an interesting choice. Now, December is the month I found myself skipping days until your ultimate choice, along with January. But a little change to the script. Aigis' evolution will happen during the battle with Ryoji, but she will still be seriously damaged. I think this is the month you should watch everyone actually struggle to come to the conclusion to fight, just like the movie. Minato will feel sad and guilty about how the fact they're all gonna die because of the both of them, and Minako is getting more and more frustrated as everyone looks more and more depressed. Yukari is in the hospital because she hasn't eaten anything, Junpei has gone out to get into trouble, Mitsuru and Akihiko haven't been around the dorm lately, and Fuka, Ken, and Koromaru don't really know what to do. And if Shinji lived, he would worry about Minako and Minato's mental state. Everyone does realize they shouldn't be this way like the movies, but they just can't fully convince themselves even with what they realize. So in this case, Minako is probably the one who gives the speech for them to fight. She comes out how she hates seeing everyone like this, and says if they're going to end up dying anyway, she would rather fight for a tiny chance of making things right. Junpei is rightfully pissed off, saying how they can fight something like a god, that it's impossible. Minako then said something that's gonna sting a lot. And then December 31st happens. Minato and Minako make a choice, which you still get to choose. Kyoryoji and everyone's memories are gone and you get a very sad ending. Don't kill him, and he'll show you his true form as Thanatos and ask to kill him. Keep denying it, and he turns back to normal and accept both Minato and Minako's choice. Before going back to the others, he does say goodbye to both of them personally and gives Minako his ring. And everything happens as normal, with a few changes. Chidori is alive, and this is a permanent choice I wanted to make. It's not something you choose, it's something that does happen, because I feel like this scene, after seeing it during Minako's route, it was actually really more impactful than I think people realize. This gives Junpei and everybody else more of a reason to fight Nyx. This genuinely gives Chidori a chance to live life normally, which I figured is what Junpei wants. And everybody else. And even if Chidori doesn't have her memories, Junpei would be happy having her by his side. I'm not gonna lie, that sounds like a really good reason to fight for life. And as for Strega, they decide to take all of Natasha's strong pills that she's been working on. This means their personas are more powerful when you face them, since Strega are a joke if you know what you're doing. Or also if you don't know what you're doing, really. And then finally to the Nyx battle, or the Nyx avatar battle. I'm gonna say it, Nyx will probably use Moonless Gown more often in the other Arcana phases. It might be more annoying, but I don't know how to change this battle up. When I battle Nyx, she was fairly easy, but that's probably because I overleveled everyone. But if you have any ideas, comment below, how do you make Nyx more difficult even if you're level 99? Now, no matter who you play as, Minato is the one that becomes the seal. Minato never says it out loud, but Minako can tell what her brother is thinking and knows what is coming next: his death. So Minato is the one who flies up to fight the real Nyx. Minako is able to stand up, but will act as a form of communication to Minato to let everyone's voices get to him. If Minako is dead though, it's like normal and she's the last one heard in the form of a spirit. So all that happens, the talk with Ryoji happens, the happy hug, and skip to March. Now this plays pretty much the same. The day of graduation, Minako leaves the room and the scene with Aigis happens. Graduation is going on. Neither twins are there, nor Aigis. Minato and Aigis are on the rooftop. That scene happens, and yes, the last meeting still happens. You get to pick who you see last. Because it being a new Game Plus thing didn't really make me want to replay the game all the way through just for that. But if you didn't romance anyone, or if you just didn't want to see any of them, it will default to Minako. She'll say something sort of cryptic to not give off the vibe that she knows he's about to die to Aigis or anyone else, but it comes off as sad to Minato. Now, if you play as Minako, you get a different little scene that happens just before the ceremony starts. It's with whichever guy you pick, and I'm gonna include Junpei here. Even though he has Chidori now, it's not going to be romantic, it's more of a thank you. For some reason he can't remember. Same with Ken, who looks up to Minako. Akihiko and Shinjo would remember having feelings for her and probably say something nice and give her some flowers or something. Memory loss is a bitch to work with. I'm trying. Minato closes his eyes, and the journey ends. Credits roll, but a new section appears. It's the answer. Now, the answer plays out in two ways. If Minako is the only survivor of the twins, she will take the lead. If both twins are dead, then Aigis will take the lead. Now, it's been about 3 weeks since Minato died. The same scene kicks us off with Fuka calling Yukari, except this time let's fix it and have Yukari sound more depressed, like I think she was supposed to sound like in the first place. Now, everything after this point is mostly going to be from Minako's point of view, because Aigis pretty much goes through the same thing as the normal answer, because Aigis' development is going to be pretty much the same. Nothing really too hectic changes, but with Minako, since it's a different point of view, it's gonna be very different from Aigis'. So, let's go. Minako has returned from a little time away from the dorm to settle a few things. Junpei greets her back and they go meet Mitsuru and the others. They turn in their evokers. Aigis is still the one to turn in Minato's evoker, while Minako turns her head a bit to not see it. Everyone understands why she is a little upset at the sight of it and lets it go. Minako states she might be transferring schools. She doesn't state the reason why, but it's safe to assume the memories at Gekko-kan are hard for her to handle. Let's go to midnight. Time repeats itself. They are a bit confused when it happens, but then a light appears on the floor. It opens, and so has a new figure appeared. This scene depends who is in control. If Aigis, exactly like the answer with Metis. If Minako, it's different. This new being turns to face the group and something starts to head straight to Minako. She tries to summon her persona, but she remembers her evoker was confiscated. This thing lifts her up and pins her to the wall. When she notices it, it looks familiar to her. Long, flowing hair, just like that night. She starts freaking out and closes her eyes, and Orpheus Telos starts to appear, but it turns into Masaya and gets the thing off of her. She falls to the floor, soon to be held up by Junpei and Aigis as they watch Masaya beat this new figure. Minako is still shocked but ends up passing out and Masaya disappears. This figure then goes back to the new person who appears from the open floor. Before moving on, I'm getting rid of the concept of the Abyss of Time, though we can still call it the Abyss of Time, but it's a trade-off from a longer story adventure to a much shorter one for more impactful story. So instead of 8 doors, there are 5 or 6. Each door will instead focus on the theme of the stages of grief. Mainly because I feel this was supposed to be the original intent of the answer, but it was botched to hell and back by probably a combination of writing and voice acting. Honestly, I feel like the answer Yukari was supposed to be more sad and depressed, but it didn't happen. At least in the English localization. I don't know about the Japanese one, but everyone for the most part is supposed to backtrack a bit to their original personalities when they were first met. But before I get to the doors, let's get back to the main story. Minako wakes up and is greeted by Fuka and Koromaru. She sits up and sees that Yukari, Shinjiro, and Akihiko have tied up their new guest. She has been silent this whole time. Everyone asks if Minako is okay, and she says she's fine. Mitsuru asks her about why Messiah appeared, and as she does, the new girl answers in this new scene. So they make their way down the stairs to the Abyss of Time, and there are 5 doors, each one with a connection of the stages of grief. Door of Sin, Door of Lisa, Door of Demeter, Door of Oasis, and the Door of Pax. Of course, each door relates to the stages of grief. Door of Sin is named after the goddess Sin of Norse mythology. Though she is more of a goddess of justice, her name in Old Norse is Refusal. Door of Refusal, the stage of denial. Door of Lissa. Lissa is a spirit in Greek mythology that basically made animals rage, frenzy, or the occasional rabies. Stage of anger. Door of Demeter. This one is more on how you view Demeter's search for her daughter Persephone. To me, it felt like it got to the point that Harvest may never return again if Demeter's daughter never returned, as she begged and searched for Persephone day by day, which Zeus had enough of and sent Hermes to tell Hades to bring his daughter back. Which, doesn't happen without some sort of condition because Hades. So, stage of begging. Door of Oasis. Now, Oasis is one of Nyx's children. She is basically the goddess of misery, anxiety, grief, and most importantly, depression. Stage of depression. And lastly, Door of Pax. Pax is a goddess of peace. This one really shouldn't need an explanation. Stage of peace or acceptance. So what lies behind these doors? Not little mini Tartarus dungeons. It's been done and there's no point to it, but why? Because you have access to the compendium. Yes, this is still running on whatever save file you pick. But what's the point? Most people who are good are usually around level 90 or so. Well, behind every door will be a strong opponent or opponents, and you will have to adjust accordingly to who you face. Much like in P3P with the Vision Quest from Margaret. You'll have to enter with certain teams, and you need to play around with personal strengths and weaknesses. But what's really behind these doors are, well, yourself, or at least your teammates. Door of Sin contains shadowy figures of Aigis and Yukari. Both more or less are still in that phase of denial. Aigis because she can't get over the fact Minato is dead and she couldn't protect him, and Yukari because she lost someone she cared and loved for. So you must have them in your party to move on. Once over, you get 2 scenes. One of how Yukari awakened to her persona, and the other when Aigis was awoken the first time and given her bow. Also, so that we can see those characters from Aigis' first mission that was a mobile-only game in Japan. Those two were basically stuck in the same boat, and this helps them realize what they've been doing and slowly moving on with each door beaten, along with everyone else. I should also point this out, if you control Aigis, Door of Sin will only contain Yukari. You don't get to see Aigis' awakening. Next, Door of Lisa. This one depends on 2 things. Who is alive and who is the wild card. If Minako is alive and Shinjiro is alive, this is Shinjiro's door. If Minako is alive and Shinjiro is dead, this is Koromaru's door. If Aigis is in control but Shinji is alive, this is his door. So you either have Shinjiro or Koromaru as options for members for this door. Of course, we don't really see a proper awakening for either of these two. We know Shinji was during his first year at Gekkokan, and Koromaru I assume happened just before Ken found him and awakened his own persona, but you never see that in the story because it happened off screen, and the reasons behind it could be because the shadow had stepped on, knocked over, and or destroyed the flowers meant for his owner at the shrine. Next, Door of Demeter. Mitsuru. This one is more of a literal sense, kind of, because Mitsuru, everybody can sort of agree, she is the mother figure of seas. A mother would beg for the return of their child. Mitsuru wouldn't show this weakness in reality, but there's no doubt she is asking for the return of someone like Minato. Defeat this door and you see her awakening. Door of Oasis. Junpei, and if Shinji is alive, Koromaru as well. This one I feel could be flipped with Shinji, honestly. We have seen Junpei depressed before, so it's probably a little more fitting for this time for him to be more angry, but I kind of based this off of the teams in the original answer. But either way, if you beat this door, you see Junpei's awakening where he met Koromaru weeks before Koromaru's own awakening. And of course, you also see Koromaru's awakening. And finally, the door of Pax. This is where Akihiko and Ken's shadowy figures are. These two are probably the most grounded characters to take so much death, but still manage after each one to accept it more easily. Of course, once this door is beaten, you see Akihiko's awakening. With Ken, you instead see a time he had together with his mother years ago, because by my logic of this game rewrite, you already saw Ken's awakening. Now, Nephthys never becomes a party member, unlike Metis. However, throughout these events, she does explain that a persona is nothing more but a tame shadow of a person's own emotions. Nephthys summons Lethe and challenges Minako to a battle. A true one-on-one battle. Why? Because she says she has the key, and she'll only give it to her if she proves her worth. She will give you a chance to prepare, but prepare good because you have a battle right after this. Once you beat her, you will get a memory for Minako. After this memory, Minako falls to her knees as everyone realizes this is what has been eating Minako alive the last few weeks. Guilt. She knew since the moment he decided Minato was going to face Nyx alone that he was going to die for everyone. Nephthys then summons Lethe again, and Lethe turns into another shadow, one resembling Minato. She says, "This is who you are all remembering. Face him and maybe he has a message for you." Or in the case if you were in control of Aegis, this shadow splits into two and it forms both Minato and Minako. And a fight breaks through, but with only 3 members. Minako is out of commission. She is on the ground. She is down. She won't get up. C's members will switch out one by one as they get knocked out, giving encouragement to Minako until only she remains and stands up to face her brother's shadow figure and defeat it. And then that horrifying scene plays, probably in a new reanimated HD format to make it more creepy and stomach churning. But with that, Lethe appears for a few seconds before disappearing completely. Nephthys then takes off her golden butterfly hair clip and hands it to Minako. She tells her she and the rest of C's have a choice to make: continue on with their lives or witness the result of Minato's actions. She does, however, warn that if they choose to witness the results, that whatever happens there may or may not change the present. Someone asked her where the other door was, only for Minako to speak and say that it's her brother's dorm door, and the front door is how they return to the normal world. C's ends up talking about it, civilly, mind you, since they all have basically gone to acceptance, minus Minako or Aigis. Both of them are almost there, just need a little push, so they all chose to go back in time, find out about Dorkun, and then fights Erebus. Cue the scene with the Velvet Room and Nephthys being Minako's shadow of how she wished she could have been compiled and calm like her brother with the guilt she raised. Igor explains that even though her journey ended years ago, there is always room to learn new things. And it also goes for everyone else. Minako and Nephthys then return into one as Minako puts the hair clip on the other side of her head. Minako then thanks all of C's as she passes out exhausted. Of course, this freaks everyone out as she sleeps for a day. Everyone thought she died like Minato, but everything was alright. She eventually wakes up when she hears Aigis calling to her as everyone else was asleep waiting for her to wake up. Minako smiles, the others find her awake and state how happy they are. Day goes on, people are about to move out. Minako states she isn't going to be moving after all, that she can't leave everyone behind like that. Of course, this makes everyone happy. I like to add a little something, so as they move out, we see a little bit of Chidori telling Junpei to hurry up or they will be late moving or something. I gotta admit, I like Chidori, damn it. But anyways, after that, Aigis and Minako have a moment to themselves. Aigis tells her that even though she wasn't able to protect Minato, she wishes to continue protecting Minako and the others. Minako tells Aigis that they should share a room together as roommates. She claims she doesn't want to be alone anymore, and Aigis feels the same. Her new dorm room is big enough for 2 people, and they both go to catch up with the others. At the end, Minako is looking up with a hand to the sky on top of the rooftop. You notice the ring on her finger being the ring Ryoji wore. She smiles and thanks Minato, Ryoji, and Nephthys. That was a not story, and not everything is going to be perfect. You guys might think some of my choices are not needed or could have been done differently, but this is how I think a remake should be done for Persona. There is one more thing I like to add, however. Can we have a quest where we can end up getting Mr. Ikoda fired, please? I hate this man with a passion for many reasons, including, covering up Fuka's disappearance. I just want some sort of revenge for this guy, seriously. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little video. I have done so much research for this topic, and I feel like this is how I like Persona 3 to play out. I don't know if others will agree with me on this, but this is how I'd imagine a proper remake would be if I was in control and give it an unlimited amount of money. Really, that's the only way this will come about, I swear. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time. 儚くたゆたる世界を君の手で守ったから今はただ翼を畳んでゆっくり眠りなさい永遠の安らぎに包まれて Love through all eternity 優しく見守